welcome everybody to another edition of Hot Program. I am your host with the most from the East Coast, coming to you live on this Spartan Strong Sunday. And as always, folks, I am in airplane mode. And of course, I am joined by my trusty co-host, a man who seriously thought that ChatGPT was a car racing video game, a man who needs no introduction. How you doing today?
Backache. Other than that, great. So you may see me be very still during this broadcast.
I hope you feel better. You know, are you in a good chair? You know, have you invested in a good chair? That's
okay. This is a in terms of its value, yes. This is like a 1968 Chromecraft sculptor chair, also known as Star Trek chairs. The honest truth is these are not comfortable for sitting for long periods of time. You can have dinner in one or have coffee in one, but then you should get up and walk around.
Right.
So, but this is what I have.
Why this world's going to hell.
So it's sculptor chairs. That's why that's going to hell. But anyway, I've got 9 of them, and I don't know, like a $40 chair would be better.
Right.
Honestly.
Right. Function over form sometimes. All right,
function
folks.
Over form every time for me.
Today is all about
look at the trees.
All right, our main man, Look at the Trees, doing Rips and Sips episode 101 is at 98 subscribers. And God damn it, by the end of this stream, Look at the Trees needs to have 100 subscribers. Did you just figure it out? Did you just do it? Thanks, Slug. Boom. There it is, 100 subscribers. We did it. Good job. Good job, gang. That's awesome. Good shit. Good shit. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time of day.
Yeah, congratulations. Look at the Trees, man. Let's keep it going, man. Let's keep it going, man. Just next town, next one down, baby. Appreciate you, and look forward to more content. Great work, man. Great work, man. People got to understand, man. That first 100 is the hardest, and it's a real journey, man. I don't even know if the Hot Program channel is at 100 subscribers yet.
I don't know either.
But you know, it's been consistently fantastic content, man. So congratulations, Trees.
Wherever your location, I hope you're having a good one, gang. Let's get started with Rips and Sips number 101. Pastor Blaster 14.1 with, what's his name? Barry McDonald. Barry McDonald, motherfucker looks like William Lane Craig and fucking Bill Engvall, the fucking shitty blue collar comic, fucking had a fucking So yeah, we'll get started with this mutant offspring of Bill Engvall and fucking William Lane Craig with a rip and a sip, like we always do.
With a rip and a sip, baby. We need to get my One Back Friend of 69 plaque. That's a great number, man. Hot Programs, we're doing good. 69 subscribers, we're happy with that.
Yeah, 69 dudes.
Very early in my ministry, I guess the Lord knew I needed this, but I got a phone call one night from a preacher friend. And he said, Brother Barry, I need some help. And he said, it's going to be a hard night. And
You
I said,
smell
"What are you
that?
talking about?"
Some bullshit.
I
He
smell
told me
fucking
about a
Christian
man
bullshit.
way in Sevier County. And he said he's dying. He has no family. He's in a hospital bed. He's in the middle of his living room. He does not know the Lord. He's never been saved. There's no family to pray for him.
All right, Christians, pause the tape. You're just on some nonsense. I mean, I hate to say it, but like Christianity is really silly, y'all. And look, it's time to just call it out because it's beneath human dignity at this point. That literally, this is where we're at. We're at the place of calling somebody in the middle of the freaking night because someone is on their deathbed, and rather than just, I don't know, just honestly, just let the man expire in peace. Literally, just let the man expire in peace, dealing with the medical team, maybe the family, friends, blase, and the Glavers. But even if a person doesn't have that, the last thing they need is to be, evangelized to in their weakest moment in the midnight hour, like literally this emergency, woo, 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 woo. Somebody's about to die and they don't know Jesus. Somebody's about to die and they don't know Jesus. Just no. It's so sad. It's so sad. Go ahead, my one black friend. It's crazy to me. We need to get past this.
I think, again, this guy is, I don't know how the rest of the story goes, but we can say there is some compassion here if it's true that somebody was in the, near death's door and they didn't want this person to be alone. Now, bringing the advertisement, Jesus's marketing materials along with them, I don't know that was completely necessary. But if it is, I'd say centered in, hey, this person's about ready to go, and maybe they shouldn't be by themselves. Maybe those last moments could be more comforting by laughing and joking and talking about the sweetness of life and not how much pain they may or may not be in or how much hopelessness they have. And I think with another 5 minutes of this guy's voice, I probably could do a pretty solid impression of him.
Dog, with another 5 minutes of this guy's voice, if I was this dying person, I would have been pressing my emergency button and demanding that the nurse pull the cord, yank it out, remove the tubes, give me the pills, whatever you got to do, because if there's no coming back for me, let's just get this thing over with so I don't have to listen to this guy. And this is so predatory. Christians don't realize how predatory it is to literally try to evangelize the dead, to prey upon people when they're literally about to die at their most fearful, vulnerable moments. It just makes my skin crawl. My skin crawl.
So think of psychologically what a speech like this does. So if a person is strong or weak in their faith, it doesn't really matter in this case. This is reinforcing the power of them being a servant of God, the value of them being a servant of God, and reaching out to people who may need their comfort. And at least they can do that if they can't lay hands on the sick and heal them, because we can pretty much guarantee the story's not going there. Because let's be honest, according to the end of Mark 16, shouldn't they be able to do it? Like, dude, we got you. 3 of us showed up. We only needed 2. We're going to lay hands on you. And the next thing you know, you're going to be doing cartwheels or dancing around like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, like that guy, Grandpa did, but it's unlikely that's where the story goes.
Yeah. Let me see something. I don't know. People said they couldn't hear.
Too fucking boring, nigga.
Yeah, I don't know. You should be able to hear audio and gather. I don't know. Could you hear the video and gather, my one black friend?
I could, yeah.
And you can hear me?
I hear you well.
Yeah, all right. Cameron may need to reset or something. I'm not sure. Cameron was having an issue, he said. All right. Let's keep moving. Thanks for letting me know, Cameron.
I don't want him to die and go to hell. And I said, what do you want me to do? He said, well,
if you have a problem.
I said,
if no one else can help.
He said, well,
and if you can find them. Maybe you can hire the A team, the Prey team.
The Prey team. I was handing there myself.
The Prey team. I pity the fool who dies without Jesus.
I'll never forget that night.
Barry, you're stammering around like you're making this shit up on the fly, Barry.
Uh-oh.
Way back in the sticks.
I got to be honest with you, gang. I don't buy a lot of preacher stories. First off, preachers do a lot of weird stuff, but there's two things I think a lot of them are guilty of. Mm-hmm. Number one is they just make stuff up. I do think they just think, hey, sometimes if you need a good story, you just tell a good story, and that's as far as I think about it.
They speak in parables?
Yeah, they kind of speak in parables. It reminds me of the time, right? Right.
We have it on authority. Jesus did the same.
The other thing they do is I think they take what I call pastoral field trips, which is where they basically determine, wouldn't it be great if I, all right, so they come up with some, oh, this Christmas I want to give a sermon about how Jesus is the Lamb of God, and he's precious, and it's just the greatest story ever told. And so then they decide to go to, see a shepherd or something at some animal husbandry person or something, right? And then when they do it, right, some farmer, and then they go back and then they build that into their sermon. But when they tell the sermon, they make it like, for some odd reason, they ended up with this farmer, and then they had a revelation while they're at the farmers of just how much this reminds them of the biblical narrative. And that's how I call them pastoral field trips. Sometimes I think they just be making this stuff up. And other times I think they do stuff just to give them a pastor's story to sermon about. And it bothers me, I don't trust pastor stories.
Okay.
But sometimes they just telling true stories. And it's funny in this one too, because this would be better if he was just making this up. I actually believe this story. I think this really happened. And the funny thing is, I think he's being honest, but it just reveals the problems with his faith, because this is a genuine thing that happened in his life, and he doesn't get the issue of proselytizing to people on their deathbed.
Well, it's the death comedy jam that they're going over.
Oh yeah, we're definitely here to make fun of these people. Now, here's another thing that is interesting about all this is it's weird, because I kind of even have a boundary there, at least as I accept it now. I currently, I don't think you should use the opportunity of somebody who was at their deathbed to deconvert them from religion. I think that's a thing we need to try to do with people before they get to that point.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. My uncle died I think it was August, and he and I spoke not long before he passed away. And, I was honest with him, like, Uncle Jimmy, I just don't believe, what you believe. And I had to say, like, why wouldn't you love God? You have your whole life. Why wouldn't God heal you? And that rocked him. And one of my aunts was speaking with me because she stayed in constant contact with him pretty much just before he passed away. And she says he was losing, his faith. She could see that.
Right. Wow.
And I don't know. I don't have a time machine. I think probably because I'm me, I wouldn't do anything different other than to tell him maybe reinforce what I told him, which he might not want to hear, is you got to listen to those medical staff who are trying to take care of you.
Right.
Do as they say.
Right.
He had some habits, and you wouldn't think much of it. He was taking his prescribed medication without food, and it was destroying his stomach. was really
Right.
rough on his stomach, and he just
Right.
wouldn't eat like a piece of bread or a piece of this or that, a piece of meat with his pill. He would just take the pills, and that just messed him up. And it got to the point where he was super bloated. They couldn't get the water out of his system, and they literally had to tap him like you would a maple tree or something like that to get the surplus fluid out of his system. Now, I'm sure he spent time in prayer trying to get all this rectified. But when you don't see it working, you have to try maybe what these medical professionals who've seen his condition before, maybe numerous times, what they have as a solution. Not just folded hands, talking to God's folded arms if he's up there.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So yeah. I'm good. I'm good with this. Sorry, I was thinking about something. You ready to roll tape? I'm good.
Roll tape.
Let's get it.
Please.
And we walked in. I did not know this man. Never seen this man before in my life.
Hey, way back in the sticks. Oh, boy, way back there, man. I'm trying to make this shit up while I'm fucking saying way and waving around. I'm trying to think of a story to tell these dumb motherfuckers. A nice down-home, folksy story that I got to trek up a mountain to go find this old man that's dying, and I need to save him. Send him home to Jebus.
Now, can I say something to you? And it's cost me some meetings down through the years.
Here's those Christian fake tears. How long will they last, folks? How long will they last?
I believe in Holy Ghost conviction. I believe that the Lord Jesus Christ instigates completely salvation. I do not believe that you'll just
fake tears only lasted 20 seconds. That was a good run, Barry. Good run. Try harder next time.
The Bible said, no man can come to me except the Father which sent me draw him. I believe there has to be
him. You mean like one of his French models there, like that there Leonardo DiCappuccino did on that there floating boat movie there?
Nobody will have to sit down beside you and tell you you're under conviction. Nobody will have to horse collar you and drag you to an altar.
Horse collar me? Oh my, Barry. Oh my. Do tell me what horse collaring is. This sounds fun.
All you can hear was the death rattle. Now, it's hard to preach under those circumstances.
Oh, fuck you, Barry.
My brother opened his Bible and he preached Calvary. We sung. I tried to preach.
All right, this guy, you know what? Look, this is crazy though. And it's funny how he started, he did do the thing, right? He started real meek and mild and, we just came out of love to help this brother. And then immediately shifts to what difficult circumstances these are to preach under. But nevertheless, y'all, you have to stand bold on Calvary. And this is why I think so many Christians are really dishonest. And in a sense, I think so many atheists are dishonest about just how dedicated to the cause of conversion Christianity is, which means there's a fundamental rejection of atheism. It is not okay to not believe. And you see a fundamental difference right there. We'll say, you're really, all right, fine, you're about to die. Like, just, I don't really, all right, hey, whatever, whatever we got to do. But for them, it's like, if you're about to die and you don't know Jesus, holy crap, that is now justification for them to just disregard the clear weight of the moment, because they need to convert you before you go. And this
but it's their mission, Pocket Locker, to seek and save the lost.
Yes.
It's their mission, and it's never more dire than when someone is on their deathbed. Like, this guy isn't long for the world. This woman's about to go.
Right.
So we have to really be there for them and win them to Christ, get them to repent of their sin, and win them to Christ.
Right. This is why we as in non-believers, have to start working harder to convince people to stop being Christians. Because as long as no, seriously, because as long as this, look, we have to deal with the Christianity that's practiced, not the Christianity we wish was practiced. And we're never going to be able to die. We're not going to be able to die with dignity so long as we're making excuses for these grown people trying to, proselytize to us on our way out the door. And the thing is, and this is something that struck me recently, is they're also preventing us as a society from getting more equipped and tooled to deal with death. It's a catch-22. It's like part of the reason so many people think is the fear of death and the inability to cope with death is at the core of religion. But at the same time, the inability or fear to deal with death is the very same thing that continues to empower religion. And so if we can't, break that chain, we're never going to figure out how to really face, okay, I am in fact dying, or my mother, my child, my friend is in fact dying. Let's come to grips with this. Let's accept. Let's cope. If we need some resources, some counseling, some additional education, some additional support, let's try to get it. Instead, they insist that we never learn to face death head on because, they insist that we get caught up in this silly narrative. So it bothers me, and this is one of because I agree with you that they get to that they're going to say it's the mission and they have to and they're obligated to. But then if that's the case, then we at that point we've got to really start to. This is the point. Like, to me, like we keep saying things like, oh, if people would just have a faith that doesn't affect other people or doesn't interfere with other people's lives, we'd be okay with it. But they don't. They don't. These religions sort of demand that they inconvenience the rest of us, and so.
Well, I could see your point there. I think I watched
appreciate that.
I've seen quite a few of those Jordan Klepper videos, who is part of, I think it's The Daily Show. But he'll interview people who are protesting abortion. The Good Liars do the same thing. And they'll say they're pro-life, and then he will ask them questions. Are you for the death penalty? Yes, I am. But this is a pro-life. They just said they're pro-life. Are you for childcare? There's a great rant on this with, oh gosh, I can't remember the guy's name. But anyway, there's an excellent rant about someone who is proclaiming they are pro-life, and yet things like healthcare, Social Security, free healthcare, socialized medicine, Social Security, things like that. All these social programs that are designed to sort of boost those who are maybe underserved or least equipped to support themselves. This person is against those things. Well, then they're not pro-life. They're anti. He made the point. They're anti-abortion. Now, to me, that guy makes an excellent point.
Right.
He makes an excellent point. And the person can still be anti-abortion without lying to themselves. But again, part of a person, because I used to do this when I was a Christian, I would share my faith with people. Hated doing it. That should have been a sign right there. I believe in Jesus, but I don't want to talk about it to strangers. But I think there is an internal pressure from within the congregation to be evangelical, to be not just serve others, but tell them why you're doing it. As a non-believer, I can do the same thing, and I don't even need to talk about why I'm doing it, why I'm volunteering for this. Or, hey, look, I love events like this. So I figure, well, I've been attending it for years. Why don't I just volunteer this time and take my place on the other side of the table and just help out? That sort of thing. And I've done that, and I found quite a few other people like, yeah, normally I just participate, but this year I thought I'd volunteer. Just give other people a chance, So, but again, as I pointed out from last week, there's that example where the person that is sharing their faith doesn't want you to go to hell. And that's why they're doing it. they have not perhaps put in a lot of thought as to whether or not their case that they're trying to make is actually good. They themselves are trying to be good. They have not put a lot of thought into whether or not their religion is right. They are merely just trying to do right as defined by the religion.
Right.
And they feel what they're doing is only destructive to sin, not destructive to the person they're communicating with.
So to me, we've been talking a lot this weekend about compassion poisoning, which is to me where you're so concerned about somebody else that you can't advocate for yourself or that other person really, right? And to me, I think, to be honest, it's like where they're at with that is just irresponsible. And our society has enabled them instead of holding them accountable, which has prevented them from being able to grow. And at the same time, it's prevented the rest of us from being able to, have our own space and have our own equality. I really think we privilege religion in a way that's incredibly dangerous, especially because ... it's not true. And to me, that's like the elephant in the room. It's like we're literally allowing people to act irresponsibly, dangerously, in a way that, violates other people. And they're selling snake oil. So to me, it becomes a mistake it's good to understand where somebody's coming from, but we've got to at some point then remind ourselves, wait, where am I coming from? I'm not on their side. So I'm like, cool, I get why you feel you have to do this. That's not gonna stop me from trying to stop you, right? It's just not. It's like a I almost think of it as a police officer who sees somebody committing a crime. You could sit here and give me all the sociological explanations as to why people do bad things. I'm looking at you. Are you breaking the law? Cool. I'm cuffing you and I ain't taking them off. And it's just because, again, like, I don't have time, right? I feel like I'm suffering. I've been talking about this over the weekend. Like, I constantly feel like I'm suffering from inability to like live my truth in my own life with my own support system. And so I feel like so unsafe around religion. I have a hard time, I have a hard time like giving more credence to them because that's the sort of abuse I'm just trying to fight back. And this is scary to me. Like I like to think maybe I'm living in a way that makes this less likely to happen to me, but I don't even think it will. I literally imagine myself vulnerable to this. Like I'm in some, I have some real serious condition. Maybe I can't even communicate really well or, advocate for myself fully. And I'm laid up in a hospital bed and I'm just dealing with a real hard time, and I got these dudes with me. And sometimes they're the worst because they're trying to relationship build. They'll come sit with you. I'll be here every day. I'll be here. I'll do, and that scares me. That literally scares me to think of having some weird preacher creeping on me.
But that's their mandate.
Yeah.
That's their mandate. That's part of, and this goes back to our conversation with Wayne. You have to set the boundaries. You do. If it feels like it's crushing you, you feel like it's smothering you. If you feels like I'm just listening to you say a bunch of things about Jesus that I don't want to hear. I don't know.
But I think we got to make them realize their religion's a danger to them. Right, they're out here acting a fool, right?
But that's not why they're there for you.
It doesn't matter.
They're there to save you, not.
But you're not. But that's what I'm saying. We should be trying to save them. We should be trying to save. I think at some point we have to feel a mandate. The same way I feel like the same way I feel like you should be anti-religion, anti-racist, or you're part of the problem. I'm really like anti-religion. I'm not like, I'm really like, because I can't think of a better thing I could do for. I mean, one of the things I expressed on the show this over the weekend is I suffer every day because I am unable to do simple things like call my mother as frequently as I would like to, talk to my grandparents as much as I would like to, because I feel such a heavy sense of discomfort interacting with them because of their religious life. And
Can I
it's
make a
okay.
suggestion?
It's supposed to be okay with me. And it's like, and it's not. And then when I try to speak out about it, people keep telling me to think about them. And really is like almost traumatic for me that people can't see so-and-so has a hard time dealing with X is wrong, X isn't true. That like let's just like, you know, like sometimes I think like to me, like, and again, it's a shift, this focus, and even like away from the debates, it's like, I don't even want to have the debate. Like, I'm here to support people. It's just me. I'm here to support people in being anti-religious and dealing with and recovering for religion. Like, I'm not here even as much for the debates and the conversations and let's break down the arguments. You know, some of that I think is just what we do for content creating, but I'm just doing content creating to try to like support and build the community. And for me, it's like, man, it's just so weird. Like, I feel like we turn our own spaces into spaces that are about them and not about us. It's really, I don't know how we resist doing that to ourselves.
Well, I'll talk to I have a particular aunt that's in ministry. So I'll talk to her and see if she wants to come on the show. And we can focus on that topic, because I think that's something when you call your parents, your mom, your grandparents, I think maybe it could be useful. Hey, I called to see how you're doing and talk about this. Like maybe it's whatever, the football or basketball or the train derailment or whatever. Just I called you to talk about this. You do the job of, if you can do it. I mean, you know these people. You know your family. I don't know them.
Yeah,
But
but
you do the job of
that's the
focusing on a
suffering to me.
particular
Like,
aspect.
that's the thing that like you could do that, but I've been doing that for, you know, I don't know how long, at least 15 years, right? So because that's the gray rocking, right? That's the thing. It's the thing where you're avoiding it. It's the thing where you're, I don't know. That's why I don't want to talk. That's why I don't want to talk. It's like because it's like the recurring theme of talking about everything else. That's what every conversation is. I call to talk about something I don't care about because I can't talk to you about what I do care about. It's like, and then it's just
the
annoying.
Star Wars problem. It's the Star Wars problem.
What's that?
All those movies are the exact same story. It's not one story. I mean, it's not one continuous story. It's the same story. Oh, here's a story about a orphan pilot who has to blow up the Death Star in the end, and they need more training, blah, blah, blah. A sage comes along to teach them what to do. The next thing you know, they're the best person in the galaxy at whatever the heck they're doing. And then they blow up the Death Star. Same thing. Over and over, over and over. It's never anything. Lots of different scenery.
Right.
Different characters. It is the same story. Well, the story works. I think that's part of what you're dealing with. That's how they know how to interact with you. I would say, one, the thing you always have to do is preserve yourself, right? You're tired of the religious conversation. Just let them know, like, look, if let's keep religion out of this conversation.
No, I'm tired of avoiding the religious conversation.
So you want to walk right into it.
Yeah, because it's like they don't get it. They don't get it.
But what's your goal in doing this? Is it to deconvert them?
Yeah, at this point, yeah. At this point,
well,
yeah.
then you know what? Have fun with it. I'd say I'm being completely serious. So like when I talk to this particular aunt, my aunt Brenda, when I talk with her, we enjoy ourselves We know we don't agree on whether or not Jesus was even real. We know we don't agree that Christianity is the right path. But before any of that conversation takes place, I love her. And she loves me. And neither one of us wants to cross a line where we say something that'll hurt the other person's feelings.
But see, that's the thing. I feel like
I'm hilarious.
I feel like
I don't dare say something that'll hurt her feelings.
But I feel like that's exactly what they love about it, because we're in inherently abusive, unequal relationships. And so they do love that about us because it works for them. We're operating from a place where you take what they say seriously. You take their influence on your life seriously. You've lived a Christian life. You understand the Christian faith. You understand the Bible probably better than they do. But they sit there and have these conversations with you, and it's, oh, I love you. Let's sit down. Oh, man, let's eat some apple pie. We're still family. Everything's all great. Yet there's no obligation for them to really examine the truthfulness of this thing. And in light of the challenge from you, and it makes our whole relationship a joke, and it makes their whole religion a joke, because it reveals to me that they don't care. At the end of the day, they don't actually care. They don't care.
We know that, Pakman.
Well, but I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with somebody identifying with I'm not going to walk into a house of KKK members who are going to tell me racism isn't important to them. Okay, but cool. What are you going to do when I walk out the door? Oh, you're right back to running a KKK chapter out of your own home. I'm not. Because I'm on a different tip than the rest of the people. A lot of people are still on the tip of religion isn't true, but it's what makes people comfortable. They need it. Well, since they need it, it has to be okay for the rest of us, because I'm not about that. I'm about religion is a form of bigotry. And it's a form of bigotry against people like me. And so I'm not the same way. I'm not same way. When I tell people, no, I'm like, yo, bro, I'm not friends with racist people. I'm not friends with bigot. We can have a conversation. We could have enough of a quote unquote friendliness so that we could start working through the issue. But we ain't gonna be homies. It's so long as you think people that I am supporting are anything less than fully, good to go. And it's the same thing with religion. It's like, I was talking to, I think, James about this. It's like, bro, once I brought it up, it was over. And I knew that. Because what happens is, by me avoiding the conversation for what feels like the better part of my whole adult life, right? It's like, what I was doing was permitting their religious narrative to continue to be the dominant narrative of all of those relationships. And I wasn't challenging it. And the reason was because as soon as I challenged it, it's like anything else if I came to my mother tomorrow and I said, Mom, you should not buy Tyson chicken from the grocery store because I watched a documentary and Tyson treats their chickens all sorts of fucked up, more fucked up than most chicken companies, and it's bad. My mother, at that moment, would decide she's never going to purchase Tyson chicken. Matter of fact, she won't purchase anything with Tyson's name on it from that moment on. For one simple reason. She won't double check it. She won't be looking into it. She'll be like, because my son told me Tyson chicken's no good. If I tell my mom, don't use this particular brand of makeup because done. We're not even using it. Right? But all of a sudden, my credibility goes out the door. Because if I challenge their faith, it's, oh, I hear you, yeah, okay, so you don't think God's real, okay, cool, I accept that, I understand, okay, cool. Boom, hang up, right back to the Christian life.
But the stakes are lower. The stakes are lower with Tyson chicken. The stakes are lower.
For who? For who?
For them. For your mother to walk away. She's got banquet.
But who are you missing? Who else are they lower for? Who else are they lower for?
Well, anybody who believes the stakes for not eating
Oh,
Tyson
but see, that's what we're
chicken
missing.
are
That's
lower.
the compassion
But
poisoning. We're missing. The
it's
stakes
not.
are higher for me. The stakes are higher for me.
No,
They don't
no.
care. If they decided that Tyson chicken was bad and I decided to eat it, they don't care if we have a different. What is that going to do? What does it matter to our relationship whether I eat this particular chicken, that particular? What does matter to our relationship is if you think I'm going to burn in hell for eternity. What does matter in our relationship is if you belong to a cult that doctrinally says people like me are not to be associated with. That doctrinally says people like me are not to be supported. And therefore, the country that I live in that is dominated by members of your cult is trying to make sure that people like me don't have rights, don't have representation, and are not considered equal people. And you're ignoring that and treating it like it's a disagreement over what our favorite football team is. And that's the problem. This is not just some casual disagreement. That's how seriously real Christians take this shit. And every single time we have the conversation, it's like we have to understand how serious this is to us, but to them. But the irony is we're not acknowledging then how serious of a problem that is when we're trying to have relationships with people who take something so seriously that takes, us being messed up so seriously. And that's the issue I'm at, man. It's wild, but that's what we're all trying to wrestle with this. Like, we all have that instinct, right? That's the problem. That's why I can't have the conversation. I could talk to you about it here. I could talk about it on YouTube, but I can't talk to them about it because I feel too bad to have the conversation. I feel so bad about how upsetting it would be to them and how challenging it would be for them. And I'm like, but it's not even true. It's not even true. And it is so obviously screwed up. God is so obviously a moral monster. And I don't have the balls to tell them about it because I feel so bad about what it would do to them. I mean, that's
all right. So let's
crazy.
I'm going to read Cherry's comments, which I think are very much relevant to what you're saying. Then I'm going to talk about when I started my channel 1,000 years ago, before I was so busy, what I wanted it to become. Because it sounds like that's something that somebody needs to do, and I'm probably not going to get to it.
Okay.
So, Cherry, I'm reading the comments.
Carrie Ann, yeah.
No, is he Cherry?
That's Carrie Ann. Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right, so at 1:37 p.m. For me, it's my time. I'm in California. Because it's labeled religion and they wrote their own rules, doesn't give them a right to enforce their rules outside of the club. As soon as a human claims they speak for a god, the messages are tainted by personal grievances. Created empathy for the deity to support their own feelings. How is it hurting their feelings? It's pointing to how they hurt others. Isn't that how we learn we are wrong and change things? They should be ashamed of their bad behavior, even if God is the cause. It's not a disability. And then after Lena says a comment.
Yeah. No, I know they are all they're all super
Christianity is not a disability. Yeah. It is a life choice. Carry in.
Yeah, it was just an example of how we magically lose credibility with our loved ones when we have this conversation, which is in fact hurtful. I do.
I'm not related to a single person that'll have an extended argument with me about the validity of their faith. Not one. Because if the second they whip out a scripture, I'm going to say, so the book that you believe in, you're now taking your reasons from that book. Can you take a reason from the outside world? And I can also use the exact same book to refute what they're saying.
Right.
That gets tough. That gets tough for them, which is why it never comes up in my immediate family. It never comes up. And when I talk with my aunt, it never comes up. Where I'm lucky with my aunt is we have just such a wonderful time enjoying each other that I'll be honest, it's like her religion is completely secondary to the conversation. I think you need to get there with your family where the religion, be it you letting go.
I don't know.
I don't know who.
Maybe
you letting go
maybe,
or them
but
letting go.
I don't. I honestly
Look.
don't see it happen. I think I did that. I think that's the issue. Here's the issue. I did it, and the relationships just died. They just completely died. They just completely died. Because the truth is, in my family, it's at the core of everything. And so as soon as you're Jesus accepting with that part of my family, my mother, my grandparents, that's who it really is in particular. But even everybody else in the family understands. However Jesus you might be, if you're super Jesus-y light, when you're around them, oh no, it's all good, right? And so they're all in common. Again, my grandparents answered the phone, praise the Lord. Again,
do you say no?
I'm gonna try to put it to you like this way. This is how people don't. This how I don't. Man, part of what I understand now that I never understood, and we're all learning, but part of now what I understand due to conversations with some of our trans fam, some particularly great, I think, trans movies or movies featuring trans stories, starring trans people, is the depiction of what it is like to be called the wrong gender your whole life by the people you love. For you to look your father in the eye and they say, oh, da-da-da-da, and you say she. You look him in the face, you say, she, not he. You look your father in the face, you say, I'm a girl. And then you spend the next God knows how many years with everybody just saying he, and you're just correcting people all day, every day, especially the people who know. And it's an active form of them rejecting your identity because it hurts them. It's about them. They can't accept. It's like, are you serious? So they're hurting you because they're making your story about their story. And that's what
you were doing that.
And that's what that feels like.
But you were doing that with your
That's
family.
what they're doing to me when you're telling me to praise the Lord.
That's what you're doing to them when you don't want to pick up the phone and call them.
Well, that's too bad. Too bad. Because they decided there's no way to relate to them without Jesus. I can't even tell you.
But Locker, it's the same. As I heard someone say everything you just said, but say it into a mirror.
Right. I always say that. That's me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Now say it into a mirror.
But I'm just not gonna do that. I mean, that's what war does. What war does is you feel attacked, you attack back. That's what happens. So yeah, I mean, I'm over that. I mean, to be honest, that's the first thing to me you got to get over. The first thing you got to get over when you really go in on something is you got to just get over the fact that you're going to be called a hypocrite. You're going to be called every single thing that you're trying to take down. And you know what? I just wake up and I go, too bad. That's just what I accepted as part of this story. Because again, my family should understand that. If you're gonna let Christianity be your all and everything, then don't you dare challenge how important atheism is to me. Don't you dare not get it now.
But maybe that's the perfect thing to say. As much as you value your faith and your walk with Jesus, I value my atheism. I do realize that may be difficult for you to understand, but it shouldn't be. Your zeal for God and Jesus,
right,
is not eclipsed by my lack of faith.
Right.
It's just the inverse. I'm
right.
just as passionate about non-believing as you are believing. If you think how I feel as a non-believer is damaging, then I want to tell you, you are fully prepared to imagine how damaging I think your beliefs are. Right? Yeah. My belief is I'm not trying to derail someone's life by taking away their rights, but yours does that.
Right.
When I shine a light on the Christian faith, there are millions of Christians.
But notice.
Wait, let me finish.
Good.
There are millions of Christians who wouldn't dream of telling two gay people that they can't get married, or telling a trans person, misgendering them. They wouldn't dream of doing that because they love people. because when they read "do unto others as you would have them do unto you," they take that very seriously, and so they make a focused effort to treat people beautifully. And they also have their eyes open and they get to see that beauty come back to them. So it only reinforces that doing that is superior to hatred and finger pointing. But you have entire groups of other millions of Christians who don't see it that way. Right. Why? Because a lot of them, in my opinion, are already hurting. And the only way to feel better is to make someone else hurt more.
Mm-hmm.
Because then now you get me. Now you understand me. See, you're suffering too. I took away your rights to do this. Now you feel just as bad as I do, if not worse.
Right.
When these issues, the rights of an atheist, the rights of a gay person, the rights of a trans person, and whatever group you want to talk about, right. Ethnicities even, those are human rights. And you wouldn't want someone taking yours away. So what is the active pursuit of diminishing the rights of others? That doesn't actually have the value that those people think it does. It just makes them feel like if they feel powerless and they can do nothing, it makes them feel empowered, right? That's why you get people, when these good liars and Jordan Klepper will ask people about their point of view and then show them to their face in real time how their very behavior contradicts what they just said was their point of view. They still don't get it. They double down. They walk away, right? Again, I'll quote Gary Habermas, who said one of the most profound things I've ever heard in my life, maybe the most profound things. It is difficult for a man to live up to his own philosophy. Brilliant. So for you, it's difficult for you. It sounds like it might be challenging for your family members as well. But my advice to you is focus the conversation. My aunt and I rarely talk about bicycles. I can go on and on and on about bikes and not customize this, do this, blah, 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 blah. We rarely talk about it. It's not important. How she's doing is important. Does she need anything? That's important. Things she's done to help my mom, her interpretation of how my mom is doing, those things are important. She's doing something important in ministry. Send me a link. I'll watch it. I'm probably not going to be convicted, but she's someone I love, and I want to support her in the things that she loves. Because they don't hurt me, Pakalaka.
Yeah.
I have an immunity. I'm just being honest. I have an immunity that you don't have yet, and that you may never have, right? Because anybody, you want to share your faith with me, sit next to me. Come on in and sit on down. I'm probably going to have a better time than you are.
I'm probably that way with the stranger. It's just, to me, like, I don't know, man. To me, there's something really, I think there's something really sinister going on with religion, and I think we're reinforcing our treatment as second-class citizens. Now, some people are willing to do that because they think there's a greater good that comes out of that. But I think there's fundamentally, I think that's the bigger problem with me. It's not a matter of, I don't know, man. It's a choice not to be okay with it, right? It's the choice to not, put it to the side anymore, because that wasn't allowing me to be honest with myself about the real barrier. See, I think the truth is, putting it aside and making the relationship about everything else, that's what hurt me. That's what became a form of abuse. It became okay for them to talk about their full selves, including their overt religiosity, and it's not okay for me to do the same. And it's even to the point of they can't understand what we accomplish in this community. They can't celebrate my work. There is a lot of consequences that people just overlook for the sake of maintaining relationships. And to me, the relationship becomes what there came a point where literally the feeling is like, I'm just waiting for my grandparents to die. It's just they're too old, they can't grow, be nice, show up on holidays, smile, get along, hug. One day they'll die, it'll be over. Well, I don't. It's not my fault that they failed to grow into people that maintain my interest. You know, like I hear people talk all the time.
And it's not their fault either.
It is their fault. It's totally their fault.
These were fully formed adults long before you were born. These
fully formed adults who proselytize something they never bothered to look into.
Look, I think most people, even today, will go buy a brand new car based on the way it looks and not research to realize why it's not good to buy a Subaru over a Toyota. Why does Honda make one of the best engines you can get, but the transmissions for an automatic are garbage? Their manual transmissions will last longer than the car and will still be working long after you're dead. You know, there's things like that people don't put in the time to see, like, okay, is that really my opinion? Is that what I think of it? I sold some seats to a guy who's building a Chevelle, 71 Chevelle, today. The seats are out of a Camaro. He had a Camry. I like this Camry. I wanted one like it. Was going to buy one like that. And I was asking, what do you think of this car? So here's somebody with practical experience with something that I say I like, right?
Right.
Does he enjoy it? Is it a good value? How well does it work? How about the mileage? What about the quality of the interior parts? Because it looked beautiful inside and out. Just looked beautiful. When I looked into getting a Camry some months ago, I wanted to buy the least expensive hybrid Camry they sold. And I wanted the red leather seats. So I'd pay a little extra for that. Well, they don't package it that way. I got to buy all this other stuff I don't even want. Or I could just buy the seat covers later and install that stuff myself, right?
Right.
But had I not looked into it, I wouldn't know it. So a lot of people have a superficial, as you know, Christianity. And it sounds like that's what you're saying your grandparents have. But it's sufficient for them, right? They don't really understand it on the level of a
obviously.
If you, to me, as an atheist, I'm one of the atheists on the outside looking in. But I've been on the inside and I stepped outside. I think after 30 years of you being a Christian, you should understand that Bible on the level of Bart Ehrman. You should. But that's not what we see. We see Christians that have been Christians their whole life, and then they'll go to church and they can't tell you what they learned in church. On a consistent basis. They have no idea. What'd you learn in church today? What? Oh, he was just preaching about Jesus, but what about Jesus? You know, love, forgiveness. But what about those things?
Right.
They have trouble articulating it because they may be going for the people, right? The relationships. I've said this before. The relationships, not the personal relationship with Christ, but the personal relationship with the people that they enjoy seeing that while they're there. But most of those people most of those people they enjoy have never been to their homes. I had to realize that one day when I was going to church, like, wow, most of these people that I love to see every Sunday have never been to my apartment. I've never invited them over.
Right.
Do I really like them that much? I'm not saying, come over and share my space. Let me feed you. That sort of thing. So I think you have to, I don't know, pocket locker.
But see, that's the thing. Like where I'm at is, to me, like, that's the distinction. Like, and it's only a recent thing for me to even be drawing this distinction. But that's, to me, when you're dealing with compassion poisoning. It's not about, because here's the thing, like, you should understand where other people are coming from, but that's the problem to me, right? Is that there is a culture, and sometimes a social, and sometimes a personal, and sometimes an interpersonal pressure people feel to get along. And a lot of times that starts with a narrative of understanding, empathy, sympathy. You have to understand what the other person's coming from, walk a mile in their shoes. Those things are essential social skills. The problem is when our own life becomes poisoned by toxic relationships, or dealing with ourselves in a toxic fashion because we're stuck at continuously trying to understand someone else versus saying, I understand enough. Now, what am I going to do about it? Because understanding is the beginning. It's not the end. At least in situations like this, I understand because if I stay at, I want to understand. Okay, they did something else. Now I understand. Okay, I've been dealing with this 6 months longer. Okay, now I'm going to keep trying to understand. Right? What happens is you never act, and that's when it becomes enabling. Right? Because it's like permitting something is at some point teaching it. Because at some point you're saying, this is okay. It's okay to relate to me like this. It's okay to say praise the Lord when I call. But it's not okay for me to tell you, you should never, ever command somebody outside of your religion to praise your God. That is an incredibly insensitive and disrespectful thing to do. I can't ever say that.
But wait. Let me just focus on that, because I've talked to plenty of people who answer the phone, praise the Lord. Are they telling you to praise the Lord?
Yes.
Or are they simply saying, praise the Lord that someone has reached out to me?
Here's what somebody needs to tell them. That is not a proper greeting. It is not a proper greeting. That's not a proper way to answer the phone. The way to answer the phone is, hello, priest or residence. Praise the Lord is an expression of your faith, and it is literally a command to worship your God. I mean, we can sit here and that's what it is, and that's what I mean. It's all of those, because it's like, to me, again, we're reframing the entire narrative to be about their perspective, which is exactly what the parent who misgenders their trans child does. They reframe the narrative and say, when I misgender you, it's only because I'm so attached to this notion of my son that I love so much. Nobody, respectfully, with all due respect, nobody cares, because that's not what it's about anymore. It's now about your need to recognize this change in the world around you. And so we can't keep saying, oh, it's okay to answer the phone, praise the Lord, because you don't mean any harm with it. No, it's just not okay, because that is the type of thing. It really isn't okay to put, in God we trust on the money. It's not okay. I'm a non-believer. It is not okay.
That's propaganda.
But that's the thing. It's like they're never going to realize how much everything around us is signaling that we are not, fully equitable participants in the society, and it's happening at a societal level, but it's even happening at an interpersonal level within our own, personal relationships, because there is nowhere where people stop and hit pause and say, I'm going to consider that person's non-belief before I go into my normal mode. And all I'm trying to say is, we've got to at least be able to support each other when it's important to us as individuals to provide that pushback. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, look, a lot of people aren't suffering as a result of this. If that's cool, you're good to go. But if you're anyone like me, this is the thing that is a source of pain for us. And we can't express our pain without people telling us we need to reconsider all this, because we really should reframe our whole understanding based on the people that are causing the pain. And it's like, look, we get where they're coming from, but people have to understand there has to be a 5 minutes after. There has to be a step number 2. We got it. Step 1 is empathize, sympathize, understand where they're coming from. But we do understand where they're coming from. Now we got to do something different, because that train is moving with them, right? It isn't something they just did yesteryear. If it was, we grew up like this and you got to come to peace with, they raised you a way you didn't want to be raised now, that would be fine. But it is still the dominant paradigm in their life. I mean, that's the feeling for me. Like literally, I wanted to talk to my mom yesterday because today's Sunday, right? So literally, My grandfather preached a sermon from my mother's house today. Like, that's not okay to me, because that is a complete sign that they don't see the problem.
All right, do this. Let's do this. Just as the Look at the Trees broadcaster has taken a sermon and he's sort of picking it apart. Well, he's having a good time picking it apart. Let's take one of your grandfather's sermons and do the exact same thing. Give it to me
I'm gonna see if I can find one.
Give it to me before time. I'll whip out a Bible and I'll do chapter and verse on him, and I'll see how we can pick apart what he's saying. Because again, people use that Bible as sort of the almanac for predicting what's going to happen with their own life and how to fix things. So maybe it's not that good for that. Maybe it doesn't cure all ills. Well, it certainly doesn't. We know that. But maybe it's not as good as he thinks it is. Maybe his case is not as strong as he thinks it is. Maybe he's misunderstanding what he's reading, right? This Ezekiel passage that I was reading from, it tells you, like, other people were in Eden. It tells you that. Genesis doesn't really get into that very deeply. Here it does. Why is that? Because Genesis was probably written around the same time this was.
Yeah, for sure.
If you read the book of Jubilees, it tells you how an angel wrote down stuff about the beginning of the world, and it was given to Moses. Moses just didn't have an epiphany one day. An angel gave him that information. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for writing this down, buddy.
Yeah, Scott, I was saying it's a good idea. I just have to see if I can find one. I think I maybe looked at one of his sermons one time before, so I have to look it up. They don't regularly record his sermons, and I guess it would be an older one, but I'll see what's up online.
Oh, but if it's on the internet,
did not ask us to be there.
See, Barry, this may come as a shock to you, but you and your friend are assholes, and you're bothering a person that could just...
We got some comments, so you want to read Cherry's comments?
I gotta go in about 15 minutes, so
that's fine.
But
at 2:05 p.m. my time.
Yeah, you should not ever allow bad behavior to not be noticed unless it's intentional trolling. Which comment are you referring to, my own black friend?
That one, that long extended one. I can read it if you don't want to.
How to stand up for yourself should be a show title. The harmful actions you can take and the positive actions, how to retain self-worth when dealing with people who refuse to accept you, coping skills. If you can understand how to support yourself, it gives you a solid ground to share your understanding with those who oppose it. Yeah, we could have Lena and Scott, others on, yeah.
Okay, I want to just make a comment about if you can understand how to support yourself, it gives you a solid ground to share your understanding with those who oppose it. That's fantastic. And that's where most people who are proselytizing fail. It's not that they won't do it, it's that they can't. They merely believe, right? They can't back it up. Again, I got friends who've been Christian 30, 40 years, 50 plus years, and they can't do what she just wrote. Well, I just believe. I know that I know that I know. I know it in my heart. Things like that.
Right.
That is a good enough. I think we all need to understand this. That's good enough for them. But if it fails to meet your standards, then you have to compassionately reply to that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and do it your own way. Like, look, if you don't know and you're trying to convince me, how is it that you are convinced?
Yeah, exactly. Because that's where it comes to bear.
Did you really think about it?
Good enough for them isn't necessarily good enough.
Do you truly believe it, or are you just afraid that there might be a hell? It comes down to that. It's real simple. Do you truly believe this, or are you just afraid that there might be a hell? You can read about hell in the book of Enoch. And this is where in my opinion, this is where the Bible is getting it from. Now, if you have an Ethiopian Bible, Enoch is in there, but it's not in, say, like in the NIV. I don't think it's in the NIV or the ESV, but I have like a King James Bible that has the Apocrypha, but it's from like 1880.
Mm.
So, you know, there are these concepts which I guess I have to say in the mainstream are rarely, if ever, brought up. And if it's appropriate, if it's useful, not if it's appropriate, can easily be dismissed. Well, we don't follow that. You'll get on YouTube, people say the book of Enoch is a false text. Well, that person's not paying attention to how often, like, the New Testament quotes it, the Old Testament, the prophets, Jude, Revelation. They throw all that out because they don't know about it. They don't know about it. So for them, it's just, well, because Enoch says something ridiculous. Hey, look, Enoch, I'll agree that book does have some ridiculous stuff in it, but talking donkeys, talking bushes, talking snakes, right? Those aren't really things. Jubilee said at one point before Eve was created, the animals used to have all the same language and would speak to Adam. Is that true?
That's ridiculous.
That's probably not true, right?
Yep.
Because I've never heard a deer and a dog have a conversation where it seems that they were understanding each other extremely well.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. All right, let's get through a few more minutes of this.
Die peacefully without you being assholes.
In the early morning hours, the death rattle got...
Yes, die peacefully without these guys being assholes.
He told his head against the headboard of that hospital.
Oh, and look, he's so traumatized.
All right, gang, I wasn't really going to get into this shit because I've heard this before. I know what a death rattle is. I've been around people when they've died. It usually doesn't last that fucking long. What it is a buildup of mucus and stuff in their throat and lungs that they eventually probably succumb to suffocation on whenever their bodily processes weaken to a point that they can't fucking really breathe and get the rise and fall of their chest to happen. Barry here is making it out to be a death rattle, a wild occurrence that happens whenever you die, and it's suffering, and you're thrashing around, and you're smacking your head on your headboard of your bench. That ain't what it is, man. They're just dying from fucking weakness and organ failure, you piece of shit.
I love his energy.
By the way, I think he should pause the video while he's adding his commentary, because he's talking over the other guy, and
yeah, it's hard to hear what he's saying.
Yeah, it's hard to hear what they're saying.
So let's blame the victim because your used car sales pitch didn't work on somebody that was dying, and you came up to fucking bother them.
That was the longest drive home I've ever had. It done something to me as a preacher.
Oh yes, Barry. More fake tears. Num 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 num. All fake Christian tears. But those tears didn't last very long, Barry. They didn't even last the 20 seconds that they lasted before when I actually fucking timed it. You piece of shit. You charlatan fuck that just turns on the waterworks to emotionally manipulate your congregation. You are garbage.
Was a life of sin and degradation. Something happened to him. And
well, he's doing it on his
to you that the faith that thief had was an amazing faith.
Faith is using your lack of evidence as evidence, Barry, you fucking idiot.
I mean, he's getting ready to trust his soul to a man that's dying the same death he's dying.
Souls aren't real.
Wow.
There isn't a ghost that runs your fucking meat machine body. And the dude is hanging nailed to a fucking stick. He's probably a little bit desperate and ready to believe whatever the fuck before he dies.
And this is what's so crazy about this is that the preacher and this entire congregation is literally being manipulated. And there's no reason to support any of this. I mean, this is honestly what makes religion very scary to me. I have a hard time believing people are this stupid. People are constantly telling me people aren't really that stupid. All right, well, fine. People aren't that stupid, then I guess we're just so desperate for this comfort that it's just we just shut the reason valves off, and it's outsized in proportion. I got to be honest with you. I have a PhD in evolution, but evolution really isn't super important to me. If evolution somehow wasn't true, or they changed the theory, not much would change about how I live my life day to day, or how I treat other people. I would, probably just start changing to a new theory of biology or whatever. There's all sorts of things. I love paintings, but I don't paint. I don't work at it. Painting's not that important to me. So who cares? But for Christians, it is like religion is the most important thing to them. It is the dominant paradigm of how they relate to themselves and everyone around them. It is so important to them that they feel it necessary, that people need to, believe in and get right with Jesus, even if it is literally the last thing they do on this planet. Yet, they never have to wonder or pursue the question of, should they really believe all this? And so it's scary to me that we really do have a hard time adulting. We really aren't ready to leave behind the sort of dependence of our childlikeness and face the real world together as grown folks.
Well, they will tell us the real world is corrupt. The real world is impure. The real world is reprobate, right? So their community of believers, the same problems exist within it, and they know it, right? I had to ask someone on Facebook, why doesn't God stop all the sexual abuse from within the church? How could he allow that to occur inside of his own buildings, which is supposed to be his house, right?
Yes.
There's no response for that. Or when someone can respond, when they're gutsy enough to respond, it's pretty much always something of this nature.
Right.
Well,
Pure copium.
It's for reasons sufficient to God.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
But again, if this was a person in your neighborhood, you would not allow them to around your children. You would not allow them to set foot in your home.
100%.
Because they're an enabler.
100%. Yeah.
Forget whether or not they do it themselves. They're enabling other people to do it. Now, you just wouldn't have that. So there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, obviously, with the faithful. Right. Because they know that God doesn't deliver on the promises. I've had many people say, why should God give you what you want? And I'm like, well, it says the Lord will give you the desires of your heart. It says when you pray, ask for things in Jesus' name. Jesus asked for things in my name. He says that. And we could go on. If I started to look for that response, right, the biblical response to that, I can find it and reinforce what I'm saying again and again and again. And that person knows some of those verses are there. They know that.
Right.
But because the point I'm making overcomes what sounds like reason to the people who are already on their side and looking to them for the answer. Right? You're supposed to be able to defend the faith right now because I can't. And you're talking to this, my one black friend guy here, and he's like tearing us down. I'm not tearing you down.
Right.
It's your faith. I don't want to do any damage to a human being on this planet. I don't have any. I'm 50 years old. I don't have a single enemy. That's awesome. I consider myself lucky because there's people who do. Right. So I think that I guess you have to remember, Pocket Locker, and I think you acknowledge this. Christians have it hard. They have it hard. It's the thinnest of reasons to believe all those things. But if you love them, you sort of have to walk alongside them, even though that's how they feel. I know my fiance and I, we don't share religious beliefs. You know, I am an atheist, obviously, and she believes in God. We've already talked about how we're going to raise our kids. We are both on the same page. We will teach them how to think, not what to think.
Truth is, you know what? I'm thinking about some things. I don't know that I do. You know, so one I used to always say, my roommate used to always say that he loves his family, but from afar. Like, he loves them, but it's safer to him to love them from a distance. And for me, it's almost like I don't know. Like, there's a sort of I think like a compulsory type of love that we feel for family. Like, there's certain people we say we love, and they're like in this sphere where it's monstrous to really say you don't love them. Like, you sound like a real asshole if you say you don't love your mother or your grandparents. But I got to be honest, I don't really have a lot of affection for the Christians in my life, and that's part of the problem. Is like I just don't. Like, I don't feel like I don't.
Then
like,
what is the loss? Then what is the loss?
It's the
Unless
loss.
that's
It's
the
the
loss
loss. It's the
itself.
loss of that. That's the loss. Yeah, that's the loss. It and I think they don't, because because it doesn't, and they don't get that, right? They don't get that. It don't make me feel the warm and fuzzies the way it makes them feel the warm and fuzzies. Matter of fact, it's repulsive to me. It makes me feel gross. It's like James talks about. It's like the same sort of visceral response you have to like rotten foods, or, you know, something that gives you the heebie-jeebies, right? Like, you know, it's that real sort of disgust with something, and yeah, it's that, man. That's a hard thing for me to have to think about and reflect on. You know, is it really getting that way for me? Because it feels that way. Yeah, it feels that way. It almost feels like I'm lying if I say I love Christians. It literally almost feels like I'm saying something I know I'm supposed to say, but I don't know if I really feel it. Yeah. All right, let me see. I think we got a couple more minutes. We might be able to.
What was it?
Was it that gave him such an amazing?
It's 5:30. We should go. But this is this has been a great conversation, and I'm glad we got Look at the Trees to 100 subs, man. Definitely deserves it. Here's to Look at the Trees. Congratulations.
Yes, definitely.
A couple away, but glad we can show love.
I want to encourage you to find that sermon, get it to me so I can.
I'll see if I can
pick
find
it apart. And you know what? Feel free to share it with him, because the intention of me starting a channel was to have a series of videos where a person who had become an atheist could choose. They could make like a playlist of essentially that spoke about their feelings. If they were having difficulty having the conversation, essentially on my channel, we would have done it. The conversation's already there, and you're just linking parts together to share with a family member, whether you want to sit at their side or give it to them from afar. And maybe some excerpts from our podcast here, Hot Program, could become that. But I wanted it to be the voice being spoken that was held silent by the individual, non-believer. And it was all to be done in a way that was non-adversarial. Like, look, I'm not saying what you believe is wrong or evil for you. The God of the Bible, I don't believe in. Or from my standpoint, the God of the Bible is below my standards. And if he were real, I still wouldn't worship him, because he's not good. He does not deserve that from me.
Right. Absolutely.
Not everybody feels that way, because some people just they can't wrap their mind about there being a God. Things just seem too coincidental, too accidental, if you will, not coincidental.
Yeah.
But actually things do coincide. They do. I mean, this bottle, I got this years ago. I clean it and I'm still drinking out of it. So why not a different bottle? It's that bottle. Right. I doubt that's divine.
Right.
It just is.
All right. Well, congratulations. Look at the Trees. Also, there's a link in the description for Look at the Trees channel. Please sub if you haven't already. Come join us in the cafe. We'll be in the cafe for the rest of the day. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. In the name of the Darwin, the Dawkins, and the Christopher Hitchens, science bless you all. Poof.
Take care of yourself. And each other.
Boom, we got it.
That's right.
See you later.
See you later.